feels right now because you had your opponents on the ropes. All you had to do is really finish them off, and things like lack of a gem, lack of vision prevented them from doing so, and ended up losing that game. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said at the end of the game that it really did seem to come down to Complexity being a stronger executing team. I feel like as that game went on, we saw them realize that they had upper bracket life on the line and kind of wake up into the game. It didn't really feel like they were being that cohesively eyes on the prize as a team. Like some of them were executing really well, and other ones were not necessarily with the team all the time, but as the threat of the series loss loomed, they really sort of woke up into it. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I think a car just hit a skunk like right outside my window. It smells like a war zone in here.
All right, well,
so that's an awesome situation in which to cast. But Team Freedom getting rid of the Bounty Hunter and getting rid of the Beastmaster Vision heroes, and they're going to steal the Darkseer and not give it up to Complexity.
Yeah, Swindles has piloted that hero so well the last 2 games. And there's a trend kind of emerging here. Complexity have selected Radiant basically every game, and it starts to feel like to me that they feel that Radiant has an advantage in terms of restricting the enemy jungle. We used to see that be the case for the Dire because you have that one ward in the center of the jungle that sees everything. But because that spot is so important, it seems easier for the Radiant sometimes to just clear that out. And meanwhile, Radiant have multiple ward spots in the Dire jungle. They've got that Spire that was just added right as you come up from the river. They've got the one that they've always had in the back of the jungle. And they have other spots too. And they're using that, they're leveraging that every game to basically contest the jungle farm of Freedom. Things haven't always gone smoothly, but it seems to be a crux of their strategy here.
Yeah, some of that contesting actually dug them into deeper holes than they otherwise would have been in, but the strategy itself is sound. The execution sometimes maybe not as much. They're going to return to that Oracle that we know they play so well. They're going to grab out that Invoker. My God. Well, that's not a hero that we've seen so far today. Is there enough information yet for you to know if you think this is going to be a damage-oriented Invoker or a control-oriented Invoker?
10
is
seconds
it still
remaining.
Sort of wait and see?
I think it's going to be a wait and see, but yeah, there's just, I mean, Complexity, I just want to go back again a little bit. They just really showed their chops in execution and polish as a team. Like, they do so well early game coming out of the lane phase compared to them. That's almost a given. And then when they really had their backs against the wall that game, again, they just executed every fight so well compared to their opponents. And so, it's really nice to see that, and this series hopefully goes down to the wire for this game as well.
Team Freedom taking quite a bit of time here, actually. They're running through the bulk of their reserve time just on their first 2 picks. That's a sign that they did not come into this game especially ready to rumble, right? They didn't... Either that or they were really expecting to be able to get that abated again on Ice Mike, which is obviously a core hero of theirs, but it worked out really well game 1, and it's smart of Complexity to just get rid of the comfort pick. So Alchemist is going to be the repeat pick here for Freedom. Complexity didn't really shut it down last time, but now maybe that they've woken up into the game, they're going to be able to tread in a little more softly and make sure that Alchemist is not able to get going even into the late game. Try to make sure that they have the area advantage, because the laning phase did not go well for the Alchemist at all. But he did end up finding an opportunity to catch back up once one big team fight fell out of the favor of Complexity.
Dire team back.
Yeah, we're going to see Alchemist in every game essentially. And yeah, he was kind of forced into more defensive items last game, and it seemed to be working out for them initially. A note here is that Freedom has been basically banning Wisp from Complexity every game, and that's a hero that they really feel comfortable with, and almost identity of their team, kind of almost Han-esque Wisp tiny and things like that. And so
10 seconds
they left that in the pool this time. I wonder if Complexity will pick that up and try to build something around that this time, because their rotations and their mobility have all been pretty good, and they've shown great execution, and Wisp really helps out with that. He excels in these kind of scattered types of fights.
Yeah, and the Tusk ban here is interesting, and it implies that they don't want to deal with a lot of rotations coming out. The Spectre ban for Complexity, we already saw Team Freedom try to roll with that Spectre once to pretty decent success, right? The Haunted allows for a lot of initiation potential without giving up a lot of farm potential. So
Gaming
since Complexity
bets.
did
We
fall to it
accept
earlier,
bets on
they
computer
want to make
games
sure that they're
online
not
since
treading
2011.
over already hard
Referral
ground.
system for regular users and the first deposit bonus. Gaming devices
Yeah.
store
Yeah,
and
interesting
the
to see.
best choice of
Interesting to
payment
see what
system.
direction this draft
Dota 2
takes.
and
But I
Hearthstone,
wouldn't be surprised if
Counter-Strike
Complexity
and
again stick to their
StarCraft,
guns
World of
on the
Tanks,
Radiant. They
and
want to be
League of
super
Legends.
aggressive. They want to punish the greed
EGB.com.
of freedom,
You know
and
for
you need to
sure
be able to
who's
take
going to
objectives as
win.
well, which is kind of why I lean towards this Invoker being more of an
Complexity's
exhort
turn
type to
to
have that
pick.
damage and maybe excel better at taking down towers and pushing.
Yeah, they are going to be moving in with the IO now for Complexity, and that
Dire
once
team
again
back,
implies
everybody,
why
to
maybe that
game
Spectre
3
ban was a pretty
Team
solid
Freedom
pick. The
versus
Spectre
Complexity.
can
My name is Gordon
initiate
on the one
globally
account. I'm joined here
for
by
the
Korean
defense of
Barbecue.
anybody that IO relocates on.
Last game was
Invoker
a heck
IO
of a game.
is a
How about
pretty strong mid
Yeah,
lane
it's,
support
really
duo where the
exciting
IO
comeback.
usually does end up hanging out in the mid lane for a little while,
More of what
giving that
Complexity's
Invoker the
draft wanted to do,
survivability
even if
to
it
make
took
sure that he's
rounds,
getting
but
every
way of
last hit
getting
that
to
he
it.
could possibly dream of
Ultimately, they
until
had
he
good
gets his
scaling physical
quads up,
force
right?
compared to
But
more
after that
scaling
point,
magical
Reserve
nuke
time.
damage
we
on the side of
probably are going to want to see
a
somebody
lot
with a
happened in
hard,
between,
reliable
but
stun.
ultimately that came to
Two
fruition.
somebodies with a hard, reliable
If
stun
you're
actually
freedom
Complexity
coming
turn
out
psychologically,
for
I wonder how it
Complexity.
feels
So right now they have an IO, but
you
they
have your
don't have a
opponents on the
lot in
ropes.
way of
All you have to do
control.
is really
That also
finish them
implies
off.
to me that this Invoker
Things
will
like
be
lack of a
quad
gem, lack of
swags.
vision prevented them from doing so, and they ended up losing that game. Yeah, they're starting to ban out some of these
Absolutely. And
heroes
you
that
said
are
at the
difficult
end
to
of the
deal
game
with
that it
without
really
lockdown.
did
10
seem
seconds
There are
that
still a few left in the
Complexity
pool. I mean,
being a
potentially an
stronger
anti-mage, although I'm not
executing
sure
team. I feel
if
like
Complexity
as that
want
game
that
went
pick to
on,
be
we saw
taken
them
because it feels into
realize
the
that
greed
they had upper
that they're kind of
bracket life on the
expecting.
line
But yeah,
and kind of
Wisp
wake
is
up
the
in the
signature
game.
pickup,
They
more or
didn't
less, for
really
Complexity.
feel
Reserve
Can
time.
combo
they
it so well
were
with different
being
heroes. I wouldn't be
that
overly shocked to see a tiny, even a bristleback,
cohesively
something like that being
eyes
used
on the
this game
prize
in
as a
conjunction
team.
with
Like
Wisp.
some of them
Or
were
CK as well.
executing really well, and other ones were
Can
not
take
necessarily
objectives
the
fairly
team all
well
the
with his
time, but
ultimate, and in
as the
terms of
threat
burst
of
damage,
the
can kill just
series
about anybody in one
loomed,
round.
they
Good
really
natural
sort of woke
partner
up into it.
for the
Sorry,
Wisp,
I'm
gives
a
them
little
lockdown
distracted. I
too.
think a car just hit a skunk like right outside my window. It
Yeah,
smells like a
and
war zone.
Complexity are still considering the route that they want to go to pair up
Alright,
with this
well,
IO.
hope you're-
They
That's an
need
awesome,
presumably an
situation
offlaner
we
along
should
with their
guess. But,
farming carry. I suspect the
Team Freedom
offlaner
getting
will be
rid of the
coming
Bounty
out
Hunter
here.
and getting
Elder
rid of the
Titan is an
Beastmaster
interesting hero to
Vision
fight up
heroes,
against
and they're
because
gonna
you don't
steal the
want to
Darkseer.
engage too heavily on the choke points against that Elder Titan. He's also a hero that does okay with farm, but really what he wants is early level advantage, and he wants to be aggressive
Not
very
giving up
early.
Complexity.
He has so many innate tools
Yeah,
in his
Swindles
kit.
has
A
piloted the
big
hero so
AoE
well
stun
the last
or
2 games.
control. He's got increased
There's a
damage
trend kind of
potential.
emerging
He
here.
has a
Complexity
scouting
have
ability.
selected
He has
Radiant
the
basically every
potential for
game, and
additional damage
it
and
starts
move
to feel
speed
like to
as
me
well.
that they feel
Just
that
even
Radiant
without
has an
items, Elder
advantage in
Titan
terms
with
of
just a couple of levels under
restricting the
not is going to be the pick here for Complexity though.
I wouldn't be surprised right now at like a lion pickup or something for freedom. It has wombo kind of
10
combo potential
seconds
with
remaining.
disable. It's a good initiator that allows you to blow up heroes like Oracle or IO very
5
quickly. The
seconds
Wisp has to
remaining.
constantly be vigilant for the lion, and it is a good support combo if you're going to move that Elder Titan around
Reserve
because
time.
it helps set up his stun naturally with his toolkit. So I
10
wouldn't be
seconds
surprised
remaining.
if that's the direction. And Complexity, the Juggernaut, did serve them very well last game,
5
played by
seconds
Chessie. Another
remaining.
pickup here, and he's a good in-between
Complexity's
counter to kind of
turn
this
to
AoE from Freedom because he can get in. If he can get into that Omni Slash before those things hit, then there's not a whole lot that Freedom can do at the moment about it.
Yeah, and Ember Spirit coming out here is going to give the Team Freedom a bit of late game potential as well.
10 seconds
They can
remaining.
hedge their bets. The Elder Titan will give them that early game damage and initiation. The
5
Alchemist should
seconds
be able to
remaining.
try to carry out through the mid game and then roll into a more late game build where the Ember Spirit is able to engage as well.
Dire
In terms of
team
split
back.
push potential, Team Freedom have it by far. In terms of late game initiation potential, I would like to think that Team Freedom have it, although the Invoker and Juggernaut alongside an IO are a fairly solid late game duo as well.
10
One thing
seconds
that Complexity
remaining.
have squarely in their court once again is that their early game push potential is
5
much
seconds
greater than
remaining.
their opponents, and we didn't see that work out very well for them last or the first game.
Reserve
That doesn't
time.
necessarily mean that they're going to stumble again.
Dire team pick.
Yeah. On the other hand, this is a difficult lineup to push through.
Yeah.
Once you get to mid game. I mean, you talk about Ember Spirit, Elder Titan, Alk with the acid. There's a lot of high ground defense here on the side of Team Freedom, and so. Again, a similar theme from the
10
previous
seconds
games. They want to
remaining.
avoid being run over. They want to avoid losing the game quickly to Complexity's
5
aggression. It's
seconds
almost like they're
remaining.
expecting to have trouble through the early laning phase, and they're just trying to hold on through that and secure
Reserve
themselves late
time.
game. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this pick goes more in that direction.
Well, the Jakiro is going to be some push, and it is going to be a little control, although Team Freedom, once again, not really securing any sort of reliable control spells, right? You got some area denial, and you've got the vacuum. But in terms of just a stun that you can throw out and be guaranteed to hit, barring a disjoint, they have the unstable concoction, which is, as far as quote-unquote reliable stuns go, probably the least reliable. Granted, it is non-disjointable, so you at least have that going for you.
Yeah, they have more of a wombo combo-y type of lineup. Not a lot of instant speed lockdown, as you mentioned, although a good amount of AoE. So kind of an AoE combo lineup coming out from Team Freedom. And Complexity are going to reprise their last two core picks from last game with the Legion Commander making another appearance.
Yeah, it worked out for them last time. This time is that an off-lane Legion Commander with the IO potentially supporting there, allowing the Invoker to mid-lane solo and the Juggernaut safe lane with the Oracle. I suspect that's the way they end up rolling this, but the IO Legion Commander is just such a devastating potential combo. If that Jakiro is ever out of place in Envision, that's a free duel. And as far as Team Freedom goes, they are taking some time selecting their heroes, but it looks like they are going to want to be aggressively rotating, at least with the Elder Titan, if not with the Jakiro as well. Did I lose you, Jack?
I'm here. This is going to be, again, I feel like Freedom are in a tougher spot this game than in previous matches that we've seen. I feel like their heroes were a little bit easier for them to execute in the last game, for example, with Doom, with Timber. So in this case, they're going to have to be a lot more precise with the use of spells and not having the hard lockdown to kind of synergize with their combos. And that's going to be very difficult against heroes like Juggernaut, who can kind of spin out of soft disables. You've got the Legion Commander, who can free anyone with his press the attack. You've got a lot of mobility and healing as well. You have the Oracle, who is also great at freeing you from disables. He's got a Dispel plus the Fate's Edict, as well as the False Promise. And so a lot of answers on the side of Complexity. I feel like the pressure is more on Freedom this game to execute very well. And we haven't really seen them do that throughout this series.
Yeah, I agree that the pressure is more on them, but they also do have some crunch back potential. The Ember Spirit can farm out from inside of his base. My god, that skunk. Can farm out from inside of his base relatively safely and effectively. The same can be said for the Alchemist. So if they do get pushed back into their base, they at least have some mechanism for comeback.
Yeah, they can certainly do a great job of holding high ground. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a really long game again this time. And you know what? I'm all up for it.
And the Jakiro is going to scout out this high ground, catch Swindles, and exchange some blows. That's going to secure the Alchemist, which will allow him to get the Quelling Blade out, as well as an additional... well, I guess he'll just save toward his bottle. Normally that rune money goes toward a Quelling Blade and a salve, but he opened with a salve, so... often not the build that I usually see. But you know what? Sometimes they change it up. Elder Titan is already scouting out here, getting ready to move on to the Invoker, or potentially trying to scout out for a Courier. Never mind, he's just going to walk away. He's going to come up behind this dual offlane as well. So the lanes did break down as we expected out of the draft.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very wild game. A lot of kiting. Not allowed to disable by
Here we go. Stop does land on Swindles. And there's going to be the tether to try and heal up. The stun coming out of Sunbee. Will it be enough? Oh, wow. Swindles walking away with less than 100. One right click off, but will salve up and be healed up. Thank you, Handskin, for the small tether heal that prevented the first blood. Stomp will miss this time coming out of Eagle, and now the re-engagement coming out of Swindles, trying to get as much harass out as possible. Eagle not sitting on top of a ton of regen and consumables.
This really feels like an NA Dota game with kind of odd picks and a very wild, what figures to be a very perspective and wild game. One thing about the Legion Commander is, which is interesting as a final pick here, is Handskin kind of playing with fire up here.
Yeah, well, Fire's about to play with him, and Sunbee gets the stun, and that is going to be our first blood. Nice little turn.
The Legion Commander duel is going to be tough to maintain because you have spells that do very well against him when he's locked into a target, and if that target doesn't die quickly through the duel, you could be in for a lot of pain in return. So that's going to be something to watch as well. They have to make sure he gets a good start, I think, this game.
Yeah, and right now, they don't really have the tools to do so. Although I will say that Freedom having to invest 3 up here in a traditional tri-lane, I say as there's a rotation down onto Chessie. The Courier's there with a haste room. That is a
Radiant's
dead
courier
bird.
has been
At
killed.
least Chessie did get off his items, but 3 minutes, no Courier is a bummer. And Eagle harassing out. There's going to be the stop. No
Have an acid
follow-up,
spray.
though. What is Eagle doing here? I think he expected Boris to come in a little bit earlier. And Chessie is going for an exhort-style build, so does not have that native regen. Does have a salve, however, to get himself back up.
I think that might have been a kill if they dropped the acid spray during that increased sleep time.
Here's that good start that you wanted.
Sunstrike top.
Swindle's not able to secure the kill. Jakiro walking away with 43 health. And Swindle's just bailing before he gets into it. Not willing to tank the tower for that much longer. And that Sunstrike narrowly missing as well. In terms of...
The thing to keep an eye out on, Ix Mike is able to rotate into his jungle here. Maybe potentially fearing being disrupted and killed, but that also means that he's free to come out and apply more pressure onto this dual offering if he wants to. So we'll see if he tries to do that.
Yeah, right now he's just trying to get up some basic farm, get going with the Soul Ring. He is giving Juggernaut a completely free lane here, which is not something that the Ember Spirit has the benefit of. And the Alchemist in the mid lane is not doing superbly well either. The bigger problem there is that Alchemist in the mid lane also is not going to have any stacks because Ix Mike has rotated into the jungle, right? So no quick stack, flash farm potential waiting either. There's going to be the stomp, but they will try to Delta split. Not quite there. And the Elder Titan's going to be forced to walk away.
And the Ember Spirit, he's got an interesting build. He's got 1 point up in Searing Chains. I believe he's holding the points. I don't think he's put them into stats or he have more HP, but that's interesting because that limits his kill potential.
Well, Hanskin is going to get away for now, at least, with the tether, but Swindles and the Io are on the wrong side of this track. Meanwhile, Oracle is actually going to get the kill on the Elder Titan over here on the side from the rotation, and now he's going out onto Sunby. Sunby trying to get away, will not be able to. Oracle sitting with a double kill, a nice rotation up coming from him.
Now, the flip side of that Darkseer going into the jungle being able to help is that it also frees up the supports to come help him.
Yeah, a
Perfect
free lane.
rotation there coming in.
Free lane for the Juggernaut just means easy rotations.
Right, nice play coming out there on that rotation. And yeah, Sunby was holding those points after all to see if the situation was right, and it was, but ended up dying there. As again, Wisp is seeing why it's one of Complexity's signature heroes. They make so much out of it, they get so much done. Just applying a lot of pressure, and it's going to be even scarier later on with their mobility and superior execution.
Yeah, he is still only sitting at level 3, and they don't really have the potential to leverage him too heavily into this aggressive lane, but they are shutting down this Ember Spirit pretty effectively. I mean, the Legion Commander is out-farming the Ember Spirit and the Alchemist, so is the Invoker, so is the Juggernaut. All 3 lanes, more farm going heavily the way of the cores for Complexity.
Yeah, kind of more par for the course almost. I mean, we've just seen them come out of the lane so strong. They seem to understand the laning mechanics and the rotations a lot better, as befitting a top-tier international team. And they've shown increasingly good results as part of that. And so, again, on the back foot a little bit for Freedom, but they've managed to recover in both games to some extent, and we'll see if they can again this game.
Oracle's going to move out here, try to block out, or at least get vision, up the camp. Does not quite block it. The Sunstrike is there, though, and that is going to be another kill for Z-Freak, courtesy of the Sunstrike. As Alchemist tries to catch up and farm. And now Sunby on the back foot up here in the top lane. It's going to be cut down by Swindles. This is starting to look a lot like last game.
Yeah, absolutely. What a rotation from Z-Freak. He basically just cut right in between the supports and opposing heroes. We talked about their love of going into the Dire jungle, and again, there's so many ward spots where you can play something that allows you to see these stacks and get information to launch attacks from them. Complexity have leveraged that time and again in all of these games, essentially, to be able to do that. And they're off to another good start in this series.
Yeah, Eagle is going to rotate up here to the top lane and kind of hide out, getting ready to potentially engage and try to make something happen here. But with the Oracle still hanging out up here, that would be a very hazardous decision. The duel's going to be there. Here comes the counter stop, but it is not fast enough. The Sunstrike going to be there to finish off the Invoker and the Ember Spirit. And now Eagle trying to chase out, get anything in return, but that is a little ill-fated as well. One more right-click ought to do it. No, the heal from the Oracle. And there's the defensive stop. Doesn't hit anything, but does buy him some space. At least the Ember Spirit gets away, but that's already a kill going the way of Swindles. The rotation upcoming from Boris, and Oracle will be the sacrifice, but they're more than happy to make that trade. And the Sunstrike will grab an Elder Titan kill as well. Invoker, a part of 3 of their 6 kills, having never left this mid lane.
Yeah, he basically gives you a 4th hero wherever you need it. Limp is just happily farming away. And, you know, I'm going to butcher a line from the wire, but if you come at the Wisp, best not miss. If you do, he will heal his heroes up next to him, and you'll just not be able to fight anymore. And Freedom, again, with this kind of heavier dependence on ultimates and burst, if you can't burst through, the next round of the sustain is going to go for sure to complexity.
Yeah, and Io
They're just showing a superior understanding of that.
Io, with the bottle, is able to sit here and heal and mana up the Swindles as well whenever he needs to. Things are going pretty poorly here for Freedom. The Alchemist is falling pretty far behind where he should be, where he needs to be. Complexity actually have a 2,500 net worth lead at 8 minutes into an Alchemist, right? That is pretty unacceptable. Alchemist is on top of the net worth, but not by a lot, and he doesn't have very actionable items yet. He's got the armlet, so we'll give him a little bit of a boost, but if he gets caught out before he gets that armlet up, before he gets his ult up with a duel, he is a goner.
Yeah, it's tough. They feel like they're being cramped into their half of the map now, and now Sunbeam 0-3 on this Ember Spear. It almost feels like they should start using him to rotate and put pressure with that mobility of his hero provides, but they can't. They're having a real tough time.
He just, honestly, he doesn't have the kit that he needs in order to be able to do that. And he's taking a fair amount of damage down here. Meanwhile, he is just going to try to catch up on farm while there is a siege going on to his mid tower. I can't say I hate this decision. He can teleport in and engage if he needs to on the tail end. Grab a couple kills if things seem to be going their way. But he doesn't want to over-engage, especially considering how far behind he is. He's behind the Invoker, the Juggernaut, and the Legion Commander, all by over 1,000 net worth at 9 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, this is a tough spot. It's safe to say the towers are going to start going down for complexity. That's going to lead to the next tier of initiation items. Battle Fury probably from this Juggernaut to keep accelerating that farm. Blink up on this Legion Commander, and the Invoker might come online sooner than expected too. He's already got his Mighty Self, hasn't been contested or threatened really at all, and doesn't feel like Freedom really have the tools to do that.
Yeah, Juggernaut is going to be going right into a Battle Fury as well. So he is not really that actionable right now, but once he gets that and starts to farm up, this net worth deficit is just going to continue to dip out of Freedom's favor. If they can't take a couple of favorable engagements and reclaim control of the map, they have pretty good vision across the Radiant side, but they can't leverage that into any sort of activity.
Yeah, somebody getting hunted down there by the Juggernaut almost died to the crit coming out, and so really tough spot for him. And yeah, if you're not seeing a whole lot of jungle stacks, and part of that is because IX Mike has to go and farm that himself, and the stacks are the lifeblood if you're behind for a hero potentially like Ember Spirit, certainly for Alchemist.
Right.
So without the jungle, with so few resources being distributed, this is the flip side of greed. This is usually how you want to punish greed.
Yeah, there is a triple stack for Boris here on the Ancients at least, but it's honestly a little bit too little right now, it feels like. He is maybe going directly into a Radiance here, and that is also going to be a pretty greedy build, considering how this early game has been going.
Yeah, absolutely. That mid tower is probably going to fall soon as well. And we're just being hemmed in on all sides. Complexity, putting on more or less a clinic of how to pressure a new lineup.
Ooh, IX Mike narrowly escaping a duel there, thanks to the surge. A glyph is going to be used to protect the mid lane, but the split push onto the top lane and the bottom lane simultaneously. Complexity are everywhere, and Freedom knows exactly where every single one of Complexity's heroes is, but they can't engage anywhere because of the threat of the relocate game.
Structures are fortified.
Yeah, and again, talking to Freedom's manager
Dire's top
yesterday
tower
before the
is under
series,
attack.
he was talking about complexity type of team that can be everywhere, can coordinate very well, just methodically choke you out of the map, and it's kind of what it feels like they're doing right now.
Dire's
And, he
top
also said
tower
almost
has fallen.
prophetically, we try to throw them off their game, and can we do it twice in a row? And that is looking a little bit bleak this game. But you know what? Last game we thought things looked bleak for complexity, and what happened? So,
Yeah. Well, first things looked bleak for Freedom, then they looked bleak for Complexity, and then they were just a complete mess for either team. Still, though, Jakiro getting very low. There's going to be the relocate to ensure a duel is what they want here. They don't want to kill him, and Limp is actually taking a lot of damage trying to make this duel happen. They end up just giving it up, and Hanskin will die because of how badly they wanted that duel. He'll instead move on to Ice Mike. The Sunstrike is there, but that won't be enough. Up on the northern side of his fight, Ice Mike will end up going down. Meanwhile, Sunbee coming in limp, getting very low, but he will be healed up by the Oracle, and the Alchemist doesn't really have a way to punish this. Juggernaut barely walking away. At least there was no duel loss there, but a 1-for-3 trade and the one being an IO is never
Dire's
ideal.
bottom tower is under attack.
yeah, you saw the itemizations and the skill use against the kind of piecemeal, non-instant disable battle of Freedom. You saw the Juggernaut being able to spin twice in that fight. You see the Legion Commander with his armor, which benefits a lot from this kind of list peel, plus the press the attack, and Freedom just couldn't finish off his kill set.
Checking Roche to see if he's down there with the Ice Path, or see if they're down there with the Ice Path. They weren't, but they might be thinking about it now. They don't really have the life steal or the negative armor in order to take it quickly enough. But I can understand Freedom's hesitation to not have that scouted out. It might not be quick, but it sure is stable to do it with an IO and a healing ward.
Yeah, they have a staggering amount of heal. You've got press the attack, which you can put onto the Wisp. Obviously, you have the Wisp and the healing ward as well. And so if you don't take a clean fight and kill them, it's impossible, more or less, to outlast them. And tough spot. Blink coming out real soon for Spindles. That's going to put that much more map presence, pressure against him.
Yeah, Ice Mike is almost to a mechanism here. That will be a big step in the right direction for his team. The Alchemist has something flying out to him, something big. It's going to be a Shadow Blade. He ends up going into Treads and a Shadow Blade on top of his armor. He's looking to get some quick ganks out. Maybe knock down this IO from the back line.
This is a throwback to some TI2 style Alchemist. And, it's almost like a philosophical question. Is it still worth having an Alchemist if the Alchemist is not going to be able to get the items that he wants? Is it still worth having him to fill this different role, kind of other than this, main farm?
Well, we're about to see if Chessie gets a Sunstrike kill, but he's going to pay for it. Everything they have gets cast out. And does he really get away here? And can the heals from Secret keep him alive? Back into the fountain, and he does escape. Wow, what a save from Z-Freak. And now Limp trying to chase out and punish for the aggression coming out of Freedom. And that Sunstrike on the IX Mike came out, but no, he did manage to get his mechanism up at least.
The Invoker was in his last shreds of health, and he got hit by the Earth Splitter, but just on point, perfect play from Z-Freak coming in to save him, and that's got to be frustrating for him.
All right, there's going to be Juggernaut moving in. The duel is available in 2 seconds, and he has a blink at 9. Ice Mike coming back, throwing down the wall, trying to buy some space. Alfred's getting a nice 2-man stun here onto Limp, but with the healing ward and the IO here, everybody is already back up in the fighting stage. Swindle trying to get away on the back end, and Sunbee doing quite a bit of damage here.
Watch out for the turnover.
You will have to worry about this, though. The duel is going to go out on Sunbee. That is a quick duel win. Invoker now here, and that's the Tornado. The Sunstrike as well will land. Eagle being forced to run away. Boris is going to be left to his own devices, is going to Shadow Blade and hang out, thinking about re-engaging. If they can get a good stop, Elder Titan's ult is up in 20 seconds, but that engagement giving some more dual damage to Wave Legion Commander. He's now sitting at 30, and things are not looking very good for Freedom.
Yeah, you get everyone on the other team down to 1/3 health, but you have 3 sources of heal, and so if you don't finish the job, they come right back. They kept chasing uphill, again, kind of a lack of discipline there. I'm not sure if they should have done that. And they just paid the price again with another death on the Ember, another duel going away of Swindles here. He's up to 30 damage, again, not as quick as in the previous game, but this is an offlane also with their list, but basically held off 3 and occasionally a 4th hero by themselves.
Yeah, taking a look at the items, we already talked about what the Alchemist has. The Darkseer also has the mech that we mentioned, but there are no other items of note. Where was that? No other items of note here for Team Freedom. Meanwhile, Complexity are sitting on top of an armlet and a Blink Dagger on the Legion Commander. Juggernaut's working on his second tier item after the battle period, a Midas and Traps, as well as Drums on Invoker. They are just radically out preparing their opponents. So with 10,000 network lead at only 17 minutes, they would have to throw pretty hard to not maintain control of this game.
Jubei tried to go uphill into that secret shop area to secure at least some part of the jungle, or maybe put up a ward at the very least, and that was the last part that really they had of their jungle with a safe environment. Complexity of not having any of its windows was already waiting uphill for that duel, and the map basically being constricted and being choked out, kind of their nightmare scenario for Freedom. As we see Boris actually farming the Radiant Ancients.
It's the safest place for him to be. He knows that they don't have vision down here, right? Because they're probably putting all of their vision aggressively into the dire side of the map. And they're going to move on to the Isle. This is probably a kill. Yeah, that's going to land. Oh, relocate. That is non-disjointable, so it will end up landing eventually. I'm curious if it will land before or after the relocate back. Here it comes. And he's going to return stunned. What happened there?
It's just not a very long stun because
did he throw it really early?
Unstable.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and he's only got 1 point in it as well, so
yeah.
You know, I wasn't going to keep him stunned
Okay.
for that long. So, yeah, I mean, nice Wisp play there. How often do you see a Wisp TPing out to escape and then not having heroes waiting to kill him when he comes back? That's just how unsafe it felt there for the side of Freedom. And
yeah.
Again, just world-class play. You see why the Wisp is such a strong hero here for Complexity. They understand it really well. They understand how they can push the limits of other lanes with this hero moving around, and they're demonstrating that.
And the Aegis is claimed by the Invoker during that distraction as well. So high ground is the most difficult part of this advantage, obviously, for Complexity. Are they waiting for any specific items, or are they just waiting for a pick before they try to siege onto this high ground?
I think at this point they can make a move fairly soon. One of the main reasons for that is because Sunbi, who's been really shut down, and speaking of Sunbi, almost dying right there, does not have his battle feared. And that's a big part of high ground defense. If the Alchemist had a Radiance, for example, with his Acid Spray, that would be another very convincing form of high ground defense. But as it stands, Acid Spray and these random nukes from Freedom are really their only way of holding high ground. And Complexity have a lot of options here. They can potentially split push and just have the Wisp bring in one of their cores if a fight breaks out elsewhere. They can split push opposite ends and then just slowly chip away at the towers if they want. Or they can just keep Freedom off the map, keep taking Aegises, and just very methodically take their time and maybe show Freedom how it's done up on the high ground from last game.
Ember Spirit is still really far away from his Battle Fury. This is not an easy game for them. That Ember Spirit is going to need a ton of time opened up before he can eke out even his basic farming item. I mean, we're at 20 minutes and he's not even halfway there.
Right. If you're Freedom, your game plan is the same as Complexities from the last half of last game, which is you want to force mistakes onto the high ground, and that's your way of farming back into this game. You're not going to get it by gold or map control. You're going to have to pick up these kills on these lucrative bounties and higher net worth heroes. And, you know, it really is going to take only just one fight win in order for somebody to secure his battlefield, but will he be able to get it?
Yeah, it would take one fight win, but only because of how far ahead Complexity are, right? We're now at 15,000 net worth lead, and there's an Alchemist on Team Freedom. Both the Juggernaut and the Invoker are ahead of net worth over the Alchemist.
Yeah, that's, again, not the position you want it to be. Certainly not the strength of that hero, and don't know what Chelsea's going for. It's going to be an Aghanims. I thought he was going to go for maybe a book to help them slow siege a little bit, but they're not feeling particularly pressured to do that. Or maybe they just figure with that Aegis and the Aghanims, he can get off so many rounds of spells onto the high ground that they can just brute force their way onto it. But yeah, we're about to find out.
They seem a little gun-shy about the high ground after game number 1. This was a similar situation that they found themselves in then, and they took a couple really bad, overly aggressive fights that ended up swinging the game handily in favor of Team Freedom, and Team Freedom won that round. So it almost seems like Complexity have overlearned the lesson of game one, as teams sometimes do, right? And they're not willing to engage until they absolutely know that they can decimate their opponents. It's just buying time.
Freedom have to farm very riskily to be able to find farm here. A lot of farming on the enemy side of the map. This might have been an interesting game for there to be also a Shadow Blade pickup on the Legion Commander, just because you can really stop them from doing that and threaten them, because there's no way they can have board vision to see you, and so they risk getting dueled every time they go out to split farm. And,
That's true.
You know, they've managed to buy some time doing that so far. Sunby, we talked about just having his perseverance, has managed to split farm out quite a few waves, and he's now only 1,000 gold away from his battlefield.
The blink is not going to quite be in place. The tornado will miss, and that is probably not a duel. Oh, maybe they're going to save it. Yep. Imperial Warhammer going down. Juggernaut coming in from the sidelines there. And now we'll go in an Omni/I Mike. The mech is not enough. And the Fusel Blade paying off in spades there. Alchemist will be able to get himself back into the base, but with no buyback on the Darkseer, and the hero not really providing that much in terms of this defense, we're starting to look very seriously like a set of racks are going to drop here.
Yeah, and the other thing is, even if somebody had a battle through and say a Daedalus or Crystallis more damage, you have 3 sources of heal, and your damage output is kind of chunky or like piecemeal rather than sustained. You can heal right through it, and so this first set of Vexes is going to go to side of Complexity. This is could be nearing the end.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of answers here. Or if Freedom are lucky, Complexity will mercifully back up here and not take another set of racks, but it does not seem like Complexity are the merciful types. They are ready to end this game. Alchemist actually being forced to come up from low ground into his own base to try and defend, but there's no buyback on the Ember Spirit. The Darkseer probably can't do that much. He's got a vacuum wall, but he's got no initiation. He's got no mobility in order to get in. He's just trying to surge himself, and he gets a vacuum on the 3. It's not too bad. The stun's coming out of Boris. He won't hit quite on time. The stomp will land on the Jesse, but now Boris is chasing too far out. There's going to be the turnaround. And look at all... Yeah, Invoker throws everything that he has at him. I'd be very surprised if this isn't our GG call.
I wonder if Freedom was a little bit tilted in the last game because they were in what seemed to be a very commanding position and let Complexity track. And you see this sometimes with teams where ostensibly there's a difference in skill, like a clear difference in skill, and you're kind of just like, well, you know, they might be able to pull it up there to play perfectly, but ultimately if something breaks their spirit, they're not going to be able to recover from that. And this game very convincing way to get it to Complexity, just beautifully executed.
Yeah. Complexity certainly seemed to wake up into the series, but the GG is going to be called here. Team Freedom is going to drop down to the lower bracket here. The format here is a little bit weird, but I believe in Europe it is 2 double elimination brackets. The winner of each of those brackets goes on to play a finals match. I believe it's the same in the Americas as well. So that would mean that Team Freedom, in order to be eliminated, would need to lose 1 more series, whereas Complexity, in order to win, would either need to beat Team Freedom 1 more time or would need to beat whomever eliminates Team Freedom. So keep your eyes out for more America's Star Letter action. Jack, KBBQ, you got anything else for us?
Nope, looking forward to the next round of matches. I think we got Complexity against Not Today, and then Enemy GG against Freedom. So we'll see about that. Thanks for having me, Morgan. It was a lot of fun, and looking forward to more Star Series AM qualifiers.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, guys.